Hi, welcome to RCAM. I'm your host, Ryan, and thank you for tuning in today. And today we have on our special guest. We have Tommy Tom, who hosts One Mic or Tommy Tom and One Mic. Hey, Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Ryan, man. It's good to I guess continue our conversation a little more I guess maybe in depth than we did on my show. But yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, man, we had a really good conversation. Honestly, it was just refreshing to talk to somebody with I don't know, just no judgment, just two human beings just talking about challenging things, but no animosity, no hard feelings. It was really nice. So why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Oh, as you introduced me, my name is Tommy Tom. Of course, not the government name. I don't give that away. I think I've embarrassed my parents enough in life. I'm trying to develop something before I come back. But no, as stated, I do have a podcast I've been doing for like a year now, Tommy Tom and One Mic. Uh, been doing that. I usually have comics, musicians, friends, or anybody else that I find interesting to have on, such as Ryan. I've also been in the stand-up comedy world for about 5 years. Of course, you got to put kind of like an asterisk, I guess you can say, with pandemic and everything. But even during the pandemic, I was able to produce 6, 7 shows up here in upstate New York over at
That's not
Cabernet.
bad.
Yep. Pandemic, you have to work through it. But during the summertime, we have outside stages up here. So, just took advantage of that and got comics that I knew either from around the area or just that were recommended to me. And just like, hey, let's perform because I know that's like, that was the biggest loss I think during the pandemic for a lot of people is that ability to just go out there and be yourself, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that must have been a breath of fresh air for a lot of people, being cooped up in their houses, not being able to get out and just laugh and for a moment in time just forget all the craziness that's happening in the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of joke sometimes that like during the pandemic I realized I wasn't the most depressed person that I knew. So that cheers for me. But yeah, it was time for you to like really kind of reflect and figure out one about yourself, and then two, I guess, kind of what you want to do with your life and stuff. So it's kind of like a I don't know. I guess you could say coming to God moment for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, I think a lot of people came to God, and a lot of people had their eyes opened up during this this whole pandemic, and it's ongoing, obviously. So so you're in the comedy world. How did you get involved in that? Like what happened where you found yourself doing stand up and starting to attend shows or do shows and be a comic?
All right. Well, I'm an open guy, so I have like no shame. I have shame, but I don't. I'm not afraid to like talk about it. During my 20s, probably not the best of person. I got 3 DWIs within like a 5-year span. So after the third one, I got put on probation and uh, ended up having to go to rehab, which, a lot of people kind of complain about. Like the option is jail or rehab. And a lot of people will be like, I'll go to jail. I can do that in my sleep. And for me, I guess I kind of took like advantage of the situation of like, I haven't like really stopped to look at my life and stuff like that. So I kind of just took advantage of it and was like, all right, I'll go to the rehab because I can't really do anything in jail and just like take advantage of that because a lot of people they go into rehab and I think it's a oh it's just solely about drugs and whatnot. And I always went in there and I was like, I don't have a drug problem. I have a me problem that I'd like to work on, and I maintained that throughout the entire time. And when I got out, I had a friend who hit me up and he was like, "Hey, I want to go to the city. I want to try. I want to my dream and stuff like that." And so I went with him, and we went on our adventures and stuff throughout the city, and we ended up uh, at a bar. And as we're sitting there, we see there's these glass doors in the back, and I'm like, "Is that a stage back there?" And so we go back, and it just so happened that there was an open mic going on. So we sat down, and I realized he was gonna he was scared about doing it. So I figured, well, if I do it, then it's like that machismo thing of like, well, now he has to do it. So I went up, I told a horrible story about us trying to catch a squirrel that got into my basement when I was younger. Uh, it was bad. It was a bad bomb. And
Now
after
I want to I want to hear the
you want to hear,
story.
I'll tell the story. So when I was like in high school or whatnot, uh, kind of in our basement, we had redone it, and so like half of it was like a storage area, and then the other was like kind of like a mini living room. But we had put in a drop ceiling, kind of like what they have in high school with like the tiles and whatnot.
Okay.
And I
That
remember,
sounds like my basement.
yeah, just like a makeshift thing, right? But then still on the other side, it's like the brick mortar kind of section of like what it originally was. We just only
Dude,
like
that
cut half of
literally
it.
sounds like the basement I grew up in. I'm not kidding.
That was a fun Christmas Eve, I remember, because all my dad's brothers and my cousin Ian, they all came, and that's what we did Christmas Eve. We just worked on the basement, setting up the frame and stuff like that. Anyway, uh, so it was, I believe it was a Friday 13th, just because I was watching like a Friday 13th marathon down there. And I remember like at the end, all of a sudden all the tiles above my head started shaking. Like they just started shaking. And I was like, what? I've just been going through this horror marathon. So I go into the back area and I have like a flashlight and I shine in looking onto the drop ceiling, and there's a squirrel looking back at me. And so I was like, oh shoot, we have a squirrel. And I tell my parents, and they went to one of their friends' house, and he just so happens to work at a vet, so they were gonna just get a cage and whatnot. But when they leave, me and my friends, stupid high schoolers, were like, "Oh, we'll catch the squirrel, we'll catch it, we'll get it, and all that." So, you know, as high schoolers did, we of course smoked some weed, and then we went to go catch this squirrel. And long story short, we failed miserably. Like we got it into the living room area, screamed like little girls as we were like as it ran at us, and we just like jumped out of the way. We got it back into the storage area, and as we're sitting there, my friend Ben, he's got this like look like he's got something deep in thought, and we're like, "Yo, what's up?" And he like looks at us. He's like, "Do you have any peanut butter?" And we're like, "What?" And he's like, "No, no, no. Hear me out. Squirrel's gonna get hungry, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put some peanut butter on the ground. The squirrel gets, hungry. I'm gonna make friends with it, right? It's gonna start eating the peanut butter. We're gonna talk. I'm gonna start, gain its trust so that I can start petting it, right? Expects it. I'm gonna grab it, and that's how it was gonna go. I look, and we're like, all right, whatever. Get peanut butter, and he goes in there. Maybe like 5, 10 minutes later, his brother's there, and he's like, "Yo, I've been," and as soon as he said that, there's like a crash in the back room and everything. We're like, "Ben, are you okay? You okay?" Yeah, I'm fine, man. Pause. We're like, "Did you eat the peanut butter?" And he's like, there's just dead silence. And he's like, "Yeah, butter." That was my first bomb. That would be my first bomb. Yes.
Well, I thought it was actually pretty entertaining. Funny story. My mom would she like used to like find animals randomly, and she found a squirrel and she like raised it. This squirrel was mad chill. It would like we let it out in the wild, but randomly it would like jump through our window, chill, hang out for a little bit, then go back out into the wild. It was it was pretty cool.
we actually had a squirrel, and like I would see the squirrel and they would like be feeding it or something, and I didn't think anything of it. So I came home early morning, And as I'm like walking up, I get that like sense that something's there. And I like turn, look down, and the squirrel's at my feet, just like standing there, like waiting for something. I was like, oh, and I see like they got some nuts on like the counter there. So I just grabbed one and I just reached down and just kind of took it from me, kind of like a little thumbs up, and then just would see it across the street when like it would see people on the I guess our balcony there. So squirrels.
Squirrels. So you had your first experience, and then what happened after that?
Well, after that, then I felt for those who went to, I guess, Chits Elementary School, there's this thing that they did that was called Reader's Theater. And what it was is essentially the kids got to just write whatever stories they wanted, and this was an opportunity for them to share it. It was like an after school thing, like at night. So kids would show up with their parents and stuff like that. And I loved doing that. So for me, it was like being a kid again and doing Reader's Theater,
Okay.
joke didn't work, but I was like, all right, I'll start doing that. So I started looking online to figure out where Mike's schedule could be. Uh, and I went to this thing called freemics.com, and it just has all the lists of free open mics, or like you pay $5 or something, or you have to buy two things at I guess, the bar that the mic is at. And after that, I was like, all right, I just set up a time, hopped on the bus, and for like the first year, I would just go down there, try and hit up as many mics as I could, uh, run back, try and catch the bus back. If I didn't, then I'd be sleeping in Port Authority for a little bit until I have friends now in the city and whatnot. So I've had couches that I could sleep on now. So I've stepped up, I guess you could say.
That's good, man.
Uh,
Hey, a couch is way better than Port Authority.
I mean, I got some good sleep. I got some good sleep in Port Authority a couple times because I'd be out late, so it's like I just got like 4 or 5 hours that I got to wait for this next bus. So stick it through, But first year was just straight open mics, just the open mics. Then you start doing these things called I guess bringer shows, or they call them showcases, where it's like you got to bring 2 to 5 friends with you
Okay.
like late, and that would count as like your entry thing. It's like pretty much all the comics have to bring their own audience, which a lot of comics don't like, which I get because it's sometimes distracting. Like you're more focused on getting people to come to the show than maybe your performance and stuff. Same time, I've had like maybe some of my better performances at some of those, and some of my worst as well, because you do catch yourself affected by, I guess you can say, your friends when you're there. So
Yeah,
it's like a
I'm in touch with that, man, because like I think sometimes I'm a little bit sometimes more reserved when it's my friends because like I don't know, I get worried where it's a stranger like well they don't know me, it's easier to they have no idea who I am, so it's easier to deal with them.
yeah, I'm like a storytelling comic. So uh, sometimes it's tough depending on the person. Like some of my friends, I can say my friend Keenan is probably the easiest one. I joke he's my black muse because he's my black friend, just growing up in Sullivan County. And like he has no problem. I have plenty of jokes that involve him. But I've had others that, maybe haven't said, uh, please don't use my name or something like that, but they'll kind of do yeah, I don't know if you should use people's names or something like that. And it's like, okay, I get it. You're a little uncomfortable and stuff. And honestly, I prefer, it's not so much like the performance thing. I prefer like maybe an audience that doesn't know me as opposed to those that do, uh, just because mm, it's, I think it's an easier performance. And sometimes I think those that know you think they know you. So they've already kind of got it. So it's harder to make an impression, or sometimes they feel uncomfortable seeing this other side of you. Like I've had my parents come up to shows, and I can't remember. It's
Yeah.
not like I've produced 10 shows at like Frank's, and before the pandemic, my parents would just drive up from Georgia to just come and show support. And every time they were up after a show, it'd be guaranteed at least one person, one or two people would come up to me and be like, "I can't believe you said that in front of your parents." And it's like, I'm in my 30s now. At this point, what am I really gonna be hiding from them and stuff like that? So it's a tougher audience, definitely. It's funner to just perform in front of people that don't know you, I guess you could
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I'm definitely in touch with that. I definitely hear what you're saying. So so now you're involved in comedy and obviously you're exposed to a lot of the comedy world. So my question is, what do you think of, I guess, comedy in this current age of wokeness? What's it like being a comedian? Because I imagine it's probably hard to tell jokes without. I mean, I feel like part of the nature of telling jokes is that you're going to offend people, but like them taking it like super personal.
Um, well, what I can say, like for me, I'm low level, so it's not like it's gonna affect me. So I may have a little more freedom in what I do. And at the same time, I think I've always just been conscious of like fair opinions or stuff like that. I make gay jokes and stuff like that, but I'm making them more towards myself. Like I joke that like somehow I've passed like the friend zone and I've entered gay best friend zone the way that a lot of my female friends treat me. It's like you guys you forget or whatnot like that. But like I try and keep it fair in that sense. But same time there's like some of my favorite jokes are probably risque as for now. Like if you go back to like say even like 5 years ago, we'll say even before like I guess before Trump, I guess you'd say, because that's when I like started. So I can't tell you the number of open mics that I went to, and you can say probably the majority of the percent of jokes were probably, I guess you can say, left wing, you know, based. And
Okay.
let's back if I need a if I'm going for a laugh, I guess you could say I'm going to make a Trump joke. I'm going to make a Trump joke, and I think I've only had one Trump joke, and that was me comparing him to my dad, and that was just a thing called the oblivious racist, where it's like they don't. It's not that they hate people. It's just they're not aware of what the actual thing is, and like joke is like, yeah, Trump thought he was good. He's got a black friend, he's got Kanye. That's usually, the overlying defense for somebody when they're first confronted. It's like, whoa, 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 I'm not racist. I got a black friend or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot of people so that's actually something that I think I feel like not to say that this is always the case because there definitely is tokenism, like people, using black people just to, say like, yeah, yeah, I'm not racist. Yeah, but I think like for most people, having a black friend or being willing to be friends with people that are the opposite skin color, that's like a pretty good indication though that you actually don't hate them. Like, yeah, I want to be your friend. I don't care what you look like. Uh, I have no problem with you.
it's what I think people, and I think this has probably been like the biggest issue when it comes to discussion of racism. Um, I think it's fair to say one has a bit of racism in them. Yeah, I think it's unavoidable in a sense. Uh, Me being adopted, and I've talked about it, it's like I've received racism from both sides. Like from the black community or minority community, just in how I talk, I've realized that there's like a I don't want to say hatred, but it's almost like a double take sometimes.
Okay.
Like I tell that in maybe other podcasts I've done and just comments, and it's like even before I know what's gonna happen, I'm just like, there's probably something about my voice or something like that, whatever. And like even growing up, I think in a recent episode that I did, I talked about instance where like someone was like just telling me that, oh, you don't know the struggle, you were raised white or something like that, because my dad's white and my mom's a pale Colombian, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. But what I say about racism in general is like everyone's got it. It's, I guess, the intent. Like I yeah, I have probably in each one of my groups of friends, I've had that one white friend who makes the joke, "Oh, we're just friends with you because we don't want to look racist or something." It's a common joke that I'm sure any minority who's had a white friend, you have that one who just, they get that comfortability and they say that, and then you kind of just brush it off. It's like, yeah, it is what it is. But at the same time, you're like, that's probably one of the most racist things you can say to somebody.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
definitely rude. It's like,
it is one of those, but like I've been hearing that since like high school too. So, and it's not like I've just rolled over and taken it. It's just like I've realized they're not ready for that discussion. I could say. Um, so just because, like I say, like just because you have a black friend or something doesn't mean you don't have racism in you. And at the same time, I'm not saying you're racist. It's just like you have to be somewhat conscious. Like I'm not that super woke guy that we have to be careful with everything and all that, but I am conscious of how I talk to other people. Like I've had trans on my podcast, and it's I just instinctively just go to the pronouns that I assume they would prefer. That's
yeah,
just how I will prefer them. That's it. That's just out of
y-
respect and
yeah,
whatnot in that way. So sometimes I guess some of my friends they'll get a little too comfortable, and like
hmm
I've had the N word drop multiple times in front of me. It's not about me, but it could be about somebody else or
yeah,
something, or some racist comment out of anger that they're like expressing and all that. And for some people, you could take that as, oh, is that how they really feel? Or I guess in my case, it's like I know who you are, but maybe you need to get a little more comfortable in yourself sometimes. Like I don't take it as a personal thing. I think it's more of a reflection of the person as opposed to on me.
yeah. So there are a couple things I want to. You said that I kind of want to, I guess, talk about briefly. Yeah. So one, how would you define racism? Like, what? How would you define it?
Um, Ignorance and the belief of dominance. Um, that's to say, um, you've already made a judgment about somebody based on appearance or something, and just by doing that, it's kind of an ignorance, and that by you think you can judge another person before you actually get to know them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much on the same like I like view racism as like discrimination against another person based off the color of their skin. So that I guess that predetermined judgment based on their skin colors. That's how I would define it. Um, I I kind of like I agree, but I don't agree with like everybody being like inherently racist. But I do believe everybody is inherently sinful. So I do believe like people will like like maybe they're just super rude, or maybe they're just maybe they really are racist, some of them, but I don't know if everybody is. Like I don't know if everybody like like inherently hates other people because of their skin color. Now they might hate them for different reasons, like their culture, or their beliefs, or a certain ideology. Like I can say I say I don't know, I say this pretty confident, like I don't hate anybody based off of the color of their skin. Now there are people that rub me the wrong way because there's this whole culture that I'm not really with, or I'm not really supportive. You spoke about briefly the pronouns thing. That's something I'm definitely not with. And it's not because I hate those people, or I dislike them or anything like that. I think I would probably get slapped with the label transphobic because I'm not going to call somebody by their preferred pronouns. But there's a reason for that. It's not because I don't respect them or value their humanity, but it's because like this whole ideology, I I think like if I'm being honest, like there's a lot of confusion, and I don't believe like I believe there's like male and female, and I don't want to part like if I know somebody biologically is the opposite sex, I'm not gonna pretend they're not. And I don't think I don't think I'm being more compassionate if I do. Like if I'm not comfortable with the body that I was born in, I don't think like affirming that reality or what they believe is going to help them overcome that. I believe, like if people are confused about who they are, then I think uh, it's it's a good thing to kind of ground them in the truth, like and people don't like that I make this comparison, but so a girl that's struggling, let's say like anorexia, when she looks in the mirror, she really sees somebody that's overweight. That's how she perceives it, even though that has no connection with the reality of the situation. I don't know if it would be like, compassion to say, well, you really are, overweight, and, that, you're fine just the way you are. If that's not reality, and, I think like, I'm glad I can kind of talk to someone like you about this, because I don't think there's room for nuance in that. To me, like you're a transphobe, or you don't, you don't like these people, and that's part of this woke culture. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's that we have two different worldviews, and you think what you're doing is compassionate, but I also think what I'm doing is compassionate. It's like I think we need more people that are willing to have these conversations.
Yeah. Hmm. I guess with if you want to go with the trans community, I mean, it's been a popular topic because of Dave Chappelle's special
Yeah,
and what. Um, it's a tough discussion, I guess, when you're not the one involved. Like, I can't say how somebody else feels. I
yeah,
know people who have transitioned both, I guess you can say male to female or female to male. So on both sides. And, I think the thing that comes up, like transphobic, I don't think is, I don't put, even like with racism, I guess you could say, I don't like to put hate, I guess, towards it. It's more so maybe not maybe misunderstanding, but not knowing everything, I guess you could say, that you can, just because the fact is you're not there. You're not in that person's shoes. So, we're never ever able to understand how somebody else feels about it. So, um, I get I get pronouns and stuff like that. Like, I've even I think it may have been after, no, it was probably after your episode. I did have a rapper on there, and I did talk about my confusion about pronouns. And in the next episode, I had a trans person on my show.
actually listen to that episode. Actually, good conversation.
And we talked about the pronouns, and that's generally like it's in how you approach, I guess, a thing. Like, the popular thing, as you would know, would be the religious aspect. If that's a person's beliefs, I understand why they may have their feelings towards. Uh, you know, I grew up Mormon, and I know in the church, um, it's not like they explicitly say you can't be gay. But what they will say is you can't act on I guess your desires. Like, you
Yeah.
can be a member, just you can't do what you want to do, I guess.
Yeah,
And
and I think a lot of people focus, I mean, like, at least, like, when it comes to Christians, like, Christians hate homosexuals, and that's, like, the only sin they care about, but, like, Christians believe sin generally. I mean, it's like, it's not just homosexuality, I mean, all sexual immorality. I mean, adultery, cheating, lying, well, that's not sexual immorality, but, like, all of
yeah,
it, they're not with, hatred, like, if you hate somebody in your heart, Jesus compares that person to a murderer, so you'd be just as sinful as everybody else. So like we all recognize that we're all fallen, and all fall short of Christ, and that's why we need him, because we're fundamentally broken, and we all have this condition. But some people just like to hyper focus on one community. I'm like, well, no, like we're all in the same playing field. We all have desires. I have my own desires. So like sometimes I get angry. I get heated. But I can't act on those desires. I have to deny
Mhm.
myself. I have to show some self-restraint and self-control. you know um it just that's part of the walk, man, and sometimes it's hard. And I have tremendous compassion for people that are same-sex attracted, because they have a struggle. I don't have that struggle. I have different struggles, but not that one.
It's like I said, it's one of those things I can't, and you can't put yourself in those people's shoes. So, I understand the complaints of from their side, and I get it because it's kind of, I guess I could put it in myself, on a lesser thing. I'll simplify it in the sense like doing stand up. Of course, I will have people come up to me and be like, "Oh, I got this joke that you can use," or something like that, or kind of giving me advice on how I should go about my career or something like that when they have never even touched it or something like that. So you kind of look at the person like, okay, whatever, like, that like, I guess you're just like, yeah, you know what, you do what you want to do. I'll listen to you, but I don't really care what you have to say because I know you don't get it. So, I it's one of those things you have to see both sides, and I think something you touched on, and I guess myself was with the religion thing. It's I think from both sides. Second, you say, I guess your religion is very upfront and prominent. There's already a perceived notion about you as well,
Yeah,
and it could be say racism and bigotry in any sense is based on beliefs and stuff like that and how you're raised, but it doesn't necessarily mean that in full. Like I've been surrounded uh, most of my life, generally by white people, and I think it was something actually I thought about recently, and just with like my friends and stuff, and that growing up in a predominantly white town, most of my friends were white. So then when I went into middle school, it was like a huge integration with minorities, and I didn't know, and I felt out of place when I tried to talk or hang out with them because it was, I don't want to say necessarily, it was just different lingo. Like I couldn't, it wasn't the same connection just because, and I guess it is what they were saying is how I was raised and my
culturally.
surroundings. Hmm. Then as I got older, I found other, I guess you can say, people like me, you know, that like understood and got what I had been going through. And then there's a disconnect now with some of my white friends who don't understand what I'm trying to do. And I think a lot of good did come from the woke movement. But if I had to say the one big negative is the fear to speak. In a sense that like you can see a hesitation now where it's like I'd rather the person just say what they feel and stuff instead of like dancing on eggshells and stuff like that. And I've noticed that's like, I guess you can say the discomfort with some of my friends with me now, because in entering the stand up world, I can't be, I can't censor myself. Like, you can't ask a comic to censor themselves. What they say on that stage, look, it could be blatantly racist and hateful and stuff. Um, but what is their intent? Are they trying to work something and make the funny out of it, or are they just being, to be blunt, an a hole? And
Yeah.
that's ultimately the determining factor with me and people, where it's like I said, I've had plenty of people say very racist stuff in front of me, and while I don't hate that person or I wish it will, I don't necessarily push them out of my life. But at the same time, there is like kind of that handout of like, I'm not gonna let you get too close until not so much you prove yourself to me, but more so you just kind of take a look more so at yourself and figure out. Because I think another big issue is probably people don't try and understand each other enough. It's
Yeah,
always, oh, they don't get me. They don't get me. Instead of wondering, why don't they understand? Like, where, what am I doing to make them think this way? And what can I do
yeah,
to like address that right away? Like, one of the things when you're in rehab, you have the 12-step program and stuff, and there is that thing of making amends with people and stuff, and so and talking to people and stuff, and like kind of making amends with certain people. um it's not so much it's not so much like saying, hey, well, I'm sorry. It's more so just letting them know, look, maybe I don't agree with like, oh, I hurt this person or something. It's like, no, it wasn't anything, but I can understand how maybe my actions could be interpreted to hurt somebody.
yeah,
And it's, I guess, being that bigger person of like realizing I'm not perfect. And the things I say and do, while maybe my intent isn't to hurt somebody and like mess with them or stuff like that, it could be taken that way. So I want to be upfront and open with everything and what I say and do. And sometimes that will make people uncomfortable, but I'd rather do that than kind of put on all the different masks that everyone wears, where because sometimes you get lost in that and then you forget who you are. And I can say for certain, I definitely forgot who I was for quite a number of years.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely, agree with that too. I do think, people are definitely afraid to speak, and, I don't think people should just be firing off the first thought that comes to their head. I do think we need to to be conscious of
A
what we're saying, but I don't think we
little,
should be afraid to say things that we actually believe are fundamentally true. Now, if they're not true, I think if you say that and someone challenges you on it, you're gonna find out, real quick. A lot of times when I'm trying to figure out an idea, I'll share my thoughts on it, and some people will criticize me, and sometimes I need that criticism because I didn't think of another perspective. I didn't consider that there was all this involved in what I was talking about, and sometimes that gets me to actually change my mind. But when we're pushing these people, I guess, or I guess censoring them, not allowing them to say what they think, I actually think we're actually breeding more contempt for one another and also further alienating one another because we're in our echo chambers and we're not having that healthy dialogue that I think actually breeds a healthy society. I think conversations like this, like conversations where people are just being real and trying to genuinely understand where the other person is coming from. Like that person's not just a bigot, or that person's not just a transphobe, or that person's not just a crazy right wing Christian, people are complicated. We are not just the highlight reels of our social media. It's not, we're a lot more layered than that. And I always find it funny that people, they think they know you off of some post, but it's like you don't really know me. This is one part of me. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. What I post, I think is conducive of who I am, but it's not the whole part of me. It's not the whole picture. Who you are doing stand up. That's not everything that you are. We're complicated.
yeah. I think we mentioned it prior to us coming on when we were talking about this meeting, because you mentioned Black Lives Matter.
Yeah,
Because I had made a post and I had talked about it in, I think, my episode with my friend Keenan. Uh, the issue it's the issue of all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. Essentially, that's like a view, and I guess I could simplify it in. Um, there was this great video, oddly enough, that I found on Facebook. It was like random, just kind of came up, and it was a group of Black Lives Matter people going to a, I guess you can say, a Trump rally, and it was great to me because they went there, and what the people at the Trump rally decided to do was they let them get the stage to speak. And it was one of those things of like, oh, you don't expect that and all that. And you can see like they got to speak, and where they all were, did they get some booze? Oh yeah, they got booze from people. But at the same time, there are certain things that people cheered for. And I think that is where the misconception comes for, I think, in every issue, is that people aren't talking. You've already made your conclusion of how something is. So um, it doesn't open you up to just be like, okay, I may not necessarily 100% agree with you on this, but in anything, and I think with any group of people, just from me growing up with, I know people that are definitely racist, but like they'll be like, but I like you, Tom. You're not like the rest of them, or something like that, which is a horrible thing to say. But at the same time, it's like I get what they're saying. It's that I've uh, not maybe surprised, but I exceeded their expectations. They had these
Yeah.
expectations of who I was and who I was going to be, and then when they talk to me, they're like, "Oh, you're not who I thought you were going to be."
Yeah, it
And
dispels the lies. Do you God, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I feel like it was David something. But he ended up like talking to KKK members, and he ended up like just becoming their friend, just having conversation with them, and
oh,
like he got
yes.
like over like 200 KKK members to lay down their hoods,
Mhm,
like, and that just happened from authentic relationship. Just not
mhm,
even though what they stood for was incredibly wicked, he decided, I'm going to push past that. I'm going to have conversations with these people, and through that they started to recognize the humanity of this guy and grew to love him, and ended up laying down their hoods. I thought, like, that is incredible. Like, we need more of that. But I understand why people would be uncomfortable around KKK
mhm.
members.
No, I mean, it's like I said, with the Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, you want to throw in Blue Lives Matter and all that. The issue is, I get, and comedian Andrew Schultz, he made a great point about this. Granted, he's a white guy, but he has an Indian on as his co-host, and he has a black guy who edits all his videos, who's on all of those. You can't say he's like racist or anything like that, but what he pretty much say, it's I guess you can say from an advertising thing, it's the promotion in a sense. So you can say for the people that are All Lives Matter, immediately they saw Black Lives Matter, they thought, great, we're going into another race issues thing and all that, but this is something bigger than just
Yeah.
race and all that with the police brutality and all that.
I
But
think
what
that if they made it about that, police
Mhm,
brutality in general, I think that would have been, just a more, because who really is for? No one's for police brutality.
mhm.
No one wants that happening to black people or white people. We just don't want it happening. It makes us sick. And but
Like
immediately it did become about race.
I think most people, if you have a heart, if you saw the George Floyd video,
Oh yeah,
you're like, that's not right. The thing I would say from the other side is that what maybe people who are saying all lives matter don't realize is that, there have been other protests and stuff. The most popular, we're in football season, was the Colin Kaepernick. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's un-American, or it's like he's being hateful, or all that. And his whole message was originally about police brutality. And before he took the knee, he specifically, and they even, I remember this, like, even on ESPN or whatever they were playing the game, they show him talking to a military guy about finding out what's the best way to kind of show this because I don't want to be disrespectful. Military guy that said, well, if you take a knee, that's usually a good sign. Once again, it was the, you know, did, you know, did the president and the people actually reach out and talk to him? All right, what is it about? Or did they instantly just kind of jump to, I guess, the argument is like someone has to be left or somebody, it's that if we're on ourselves, most of us are kind of in that middle. There's things we can see from both sides.
Yeah.
But, the higher up, say with fame and media and entertainment and all that, it's like you have to choose that one side and that to the end. And as to everybody else, us, I guess you can say the people, the little people, it idea that we have to choose a side when the question is why do we? Why can't we
It's
just
always
be
like
ourselves?
that, Even right now with, this pandemic happening, now people are being divided up into vaccinated and unvaccinated, which is actually kind of interesting now, though, because you have, BLM protesters and Trump supporters locking arms, protesting in the city because 'cause they're both against it. I thought, "Man, that's kinda beautiful and poetic," because
Yeah,
I
it's
think all
funny.
of us are against, tyranny.
Yeah, see, I mean, I remember when it first. Um, I work nights, so I'm already kind of isolated. Like, didn't really affect that much, other than I wasn't going down to the city to do mics and stuff like that. Um, Remember like a coworker getting like he was like just freaking out, horrified about it, and I said I government and stuff like that. When I say like I don't care, I'm not care like I don't care what is happening. It's just like now for my personal life, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried. My parents are down in Georgia. They're their thing, and I know they're very right wing. So I already know how their stance is. Uh, I did get vaccinated, and my reasoning for it is I want to travel in 2022. So that's the easiest way instead of me having to go and get tested every time I go or risk having to be quarantined. Like I'm not, I guess you can say, financial bracket that I can like be quarantined and locked away and not be able to do something for so long. So
Yeah.
it was just all right. It was the easiest, and I'm sure people like, oh, you're complacent, you're a sheep. People said the same thing when I went to rehab and stuff like that. And you know what? It is. I gotta do. Everybody should be able to do what they think is best for them, and you
I
know,
completely agree, man, but unfortunately, I don't think the media wants that to be the case, because, like, even, there are a lot of people that they're not anti-vax, they're just anti-mandate, like, that's it, that's my stance, I'm not anti-vax, I'm anti-mandate, you do you, if you wanna get the vax, that's cool, if you don't, that's cool, but I don't like the idea of it being mandated, man, I don't like it.
because it causes more separation and
Mhm.
stuff. Because you see it from people who are vaxxed, who shun or like you'll hear them say like, "Oh, I don't think they deserve medical attention if they didn't get vaxxed and all that." It's like that's a horrible thing to. No, it's like it's the compassion, I guess. It's a lack
Yeah.
because once again, you're just so focused on your point of view and you want to be looked. You forget, you know what? I'm not perfect, and that's something a lot of people need to, I guess, come to terms with and accept. And,
Yeah.
uh, your life isn't that meaningful to a large majority of the community and like the world.
Yeah.
Focus on
You're coming in choppy a
focus on
little bit.
your. Am I?
Yeah, I think that that might be a little bit better. Maybe.
Okay,
Okay.
maybe.
I think you're
Got
good
me.
now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just with all of it, it's no one should be able to dictate how another lives their life. That's
Yeah.
ultimately what it comes down to with any issue. I guess you could say that people have with another and stuff. It's you can have your views, and that's a dictation for how you live your life. But you
Yeah.
can't have that kind of like push over and try and dictate others.
Yeah, too. You end up just alienating a large swath of people, man. I'm hearing just horror stories of some of the stuff happening. I was talking actually in a recent podcast. I haven't released it yet, but about this issue happening in Lithuania. This person is, they're refusing the vaccine, and because they're refusing the vaccine, they're going to completely cut out of society. Can't work, can't go to the grocery store, can't buy clothes for his pregnant wife was begging with tears in her eyes to try to go buy some clothes because she's growing, and it was just this awful situation that now they have to like buy food out of like trunks of people's cars in markets, outdoor markets. I'm like, man, like this is wild, and then the stuff happening in Australia, like that's wild too, like, and it's
Yeah,
not really getting a lot of attention.
it's like it's one of those where like we talk about news and stuff. Like I generally don't watch TV, I guess you could say.
Me
Like
either.
I kind of avoid a lot of like even in stand up, you social media and I'm so horrible at it. I could just because I don't want to be involved, I guess, with everything, I guess you can say with all that. But the news, they make their money on sensationalism. And you can find if you want to find something, you get it. You'll find it wherever, like a point of view or something that like, yes, I was right. That justification. And, good for you. But once again, it's you got to have that compassion for everybody else. Like if you see, I guess, the wrongs in that isolation, because it's comparable sort of hate to, and you're thinking it's we're gonna hate people because they got a needle in their arm or they didn't and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And you know, once again, that's on you 100% as to how you. That has nothing to do with the person. So
Yeah.
you know,
We gotta recognize
but
each
it's
other's humanity, man.
yeah, but it's easy, because they always say those in power will do whatever to keep power and stuff. And what keeps power is fear and hate. Because if you operate on those, uh, it's a more direct, I guess, kind of line, as opposed to love and compassion, which maybe is too open. It's too opened
Yeah.
up, and it's harder to control.
Yeah. But I believe that I honestly believe, like that's gonna make all the difference, really, seriously. Um, I think I I think I like love people sometimes to a fault, but I don't care, like my I guess one of my philosophies is love people with the knives in their hands. Like I don't care, like I know you're going through something, I know that you're struggling, and I'll be here even if I know one day you're probably gonna stab me in the back, it doesn't matter, because we have too many people in the world hating each other, too much hate and too much violence. We need to break the cycle, we do.
You live a very paranoid life. Like I can attribute that to really probably what led me to just be so reckless in stuff in my earlier years, where I didn't care about myself. Like I was like probably from like seventh grade. I had this idea. It's like I'm gonna kill myself. That's the end of this story, and I use that as an excuse to just be be an asshole. To be blunt, and that's really what at like rehab was like me kind of addressing that, realize how selfish I had been, and like you have that holier than thou attitude about things, like, oh, I know this, and once again
Yeah.
you forget everybody else around you and stuff like that. And if we weren't so focused on controlling everything around us and just kind of living, it'd be so much easier, so much easier.
Yeah, I totally agree. So as we get ready to wrap up, man, I just want to, I guess, ask you if you have any final thoughts or anything that you just want to leave my audience with.
Ooh, final thoughts. I think I've covered most of my thoughts on a lot of issues and stuff. What I was is, you can agree or disagree with me. That's fine. I'm open to all discussions. You know, that's why I agreed to do this podcast, and I generally have so many, as you can say, random guests on my own podcast and stuff. Which I guess I'll do my plug for your audience. Do host a podcast called Tommy Tom and One Mic. Said I've had Ryan on. I've had abundant number of guests. I think I just uploaded my 30th episode, so that's been going on for the past year. Um, Stand up. I'll be going back down to the city again. Kind of go back to basics. Go back to the mics and stuff. Check everything out. You know, I guess tie in. That also helps that I got vaccinated, because in New York you have to be vaccinated in a comedy club. So there's
Yeah,
those. But other than that, I have some projects. I am currently have the full thing, so I'm not ready to announce. 2022 should be a fun year, and I look forward to it, and hopefully to keep in contact with Ryan, of course, and maybe do some other stuff.
yeah, that'd be great, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Honestly, I enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did the last one, and I'm sure my audience will agree. I love having conversations like this. I love talking about kind of some of the hard subjects that might make people uncomfortable, but again, I think they're necessary, and I thank you for just taking the time to be on my show. I appreciate you, man, and I wish you the best of luck in the comedy world, and I'm sure we'll be doing this again sometime. And have a good one. Deuces, everybody.
Yeah, man.